So how are you, Moby?
I'm good.
So this is where you work?
This is my studio. I've lived here for a long time.
Moby, great to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You know the rules. 5 minutes, not a second more, not a second less. You ready?
Yes, I think so.
Sure?
Semper Fi, yeah.
Let's go. Time starts now.
Okay.
How did you get your name?
Well, the story I was told is that when I was born, 43 years ago, and I was born here in Manhattan, I was actually born on 148th Street in Harlem, my parents gave me the name Richard Melville Hall, which is supposedly based on my relationship to Herman Melville, who was my great-great-great-great-granduncle. But then when they looked at me, they realized this tiny little grub of a baby should have an infant nickname, because Richard Melville Hall is a grown-up name. You know, Richard Melville Hall is a great name if you're a chartered accountant or a lawyer, but not such a good name for a baby who's 10 minutes old. So they nicknamed me Moby, and now 43 years later, I'm still stuck with my infant joke nickname.
What a brilliant story. Now, you've worked with Bono, you've worked with Michael Stipe, you've worked with David Bowie and Lou Reed. Who have you most enjoyed working with?
It's a hard question, because I've worked with people in different capacities. I mean, I've worked a lot with David Bowie. We've been in the studio together, we've gone on tour together, we've had barbecues together. David Bowie's my favorite musician of the last 100 years, hands down.
He lives quite near you.
Yeah, he just lives a couple blocks away. But I have to say, the person who's most enjoyable to work with, or even to do anything with, is Bono. It's really funny. Bono somehow has this reputation for being like an overly serious, I don't know, it takes him perhaps a little po-faced. He is one of the funniest people I've ever met, and he's up for anything. You know, like if you call him up at 4 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, we're going out, the bars are closing and we're going to an after party at someone's roof, he'll show up and he'll stay there. He'll be the last person to leave. Like, he's just such a good sport. And he's so amazingly gracious. You know, like if someone stops him on the street and wants to talk to him, he's happy to talk to anybody.
You're both pretty political. You've worked on various political campaigns. What do you make of Obama's victory?
Obama's victory is remarkable. It's almost impossible to really describe just how remarkable it is. I mean, the fact that the United States now has an African-American president-elect. What that's going to do to race relations, to make reparations for so many years of not just slavery, but, the United States has a horrible racial history. And what's also great about Obama being elected is a lot of my friends who are African-American are sort of looking at white America and saying, maybe they're not so bad, you know. Because a lot of my friends who are African-American had this assumption that the majority of white people in America were racist, and I think they're reassessing that now and realizing that most of white America is not actually racist.
Okay, I'm going to speed this up. We've got about 2 minutes and 10 seconds to go. What are you most proud of? Because, as we've said, done a lot of political work, you've done charity work, you've even had your own restaurant and waited some of the tables, I believe.
Yeah.
And, of course, you've sold millions of albums around the world. What are you most proud of?
What I'm most proud of and what's most gratifying, and I hope this doesn't sound disingenuous, I hope it isn't disingenuous, is making music that people can have an emotional reaction to. Like the fact that I've made some pieces of music that have made people cry or that people have listened to on their wedding day. Like the fact that I've made music that people are willing to use at very intimate times in their lives. That's hands down what I'm most proud of.
And do you write your own music?
I pretty much do everything by myself. I write the songs and do the engineering and the production, and I play the instruments. The only thing I'm not doing as much anymore is mixing, just because I'm really not such a good mixer.
I've got to ask you, when did you decide to become a vegan?
I've been a vegetarian now for 25 years. I became a vegan about 22 years ago. And I used to be a really judgmental vegan, and now it's just the way I live. So if someone else chooses to eat bacon and sausage, like that's their choice. Just as I wouldn't want them to judge me, in turn, I don't feel it's my place to judge them.
You've also done some drugs in your life. You had panic attacks, is that right?
Yeah.
What do you make of the legality of drugs and rather the illegality of drugs, but whether they should become legal? I'm
a Democrat, but I'm also sort of a libertarian, that I don't think the government has any right to tell an individual what they can and can't do to their own body. So I think that, if an individual wants to take drugs, get tattoos, get an abortion, commit suicide, your body is your own domain. Like, the government has no right to tell you what you can and can't do with your own body.
Did they hurt you?
Drugs? Drugs are funny. Everybody I know has done drugs, and sometimes they're fun, sometimes they're awful, sometimes they're dangerous and destructive, and sometimes they're benign. So the one thing I can't do is generalize about drugs.
15 seconds to go.
Okay.
What do you eat for breakfast?
For breakfast, usually I have vegan pancakes and vegan sausage and a cup of green tea.
What makes you angry?
What makes me angry is people who smoke around their children.
What makes you happy?
Dogs.
Time is up.
Oh, my.
Great to meet you.
Thanks.